Not a film expert, but these 10 movies will make you fall in love with life. I mean, they should. Hey guys, I'm Alim. If you already know me, that's pretty cool. If not, then nice to meet you. Today, on this beautiful last summer day, I wanted to share with you, beautiful people, some of my favorite movies I like to watch when I want to have a good evening, or when I'm feeling a bit down, or I just want to get out of a rut and just start again loving people around me, loving life, and just wanting to live a cool life, I guess. So let's start with the first one. First and foremost, my favorite movie I think I like to watch, and I watched it several times. It's The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. And it was released in 2013. It is starring and it is directed by Ben Stiller. So as the plot goes, it's about the mild-mannered man who works at the Life magazine. The man who is wishing for an adventurous life, but so far it's not really the way he portrays it. But once he gets this opportunity to take a leap of change and go on that journey, when there is a little this film negative that he needs to find, so he basically goes on this beautiful journey around the world to find that. And I really love the main theme of the movie, which is not being afraid to take that leap of a change. I think even from my life, I've seen quite a lot of times that when I took the chance and I took the risk of, I don't know, being embarrassed or whatever, like some pretty magical things might happen, you know. I mean, they're not always like in movies, but they're also magical in their simplicity and in just their nature. I really love this movie because it's about this ability that not all of us have. I think all of us have, but not all of us recognize the ability to see like opportunities in little things and just like act on them. And when we act on those opportunities, it's when we make our memories, those like kind of colorful dots in our lives that make this life quite memorable and quite fun to live, I think. Overall, I quite like the cinematography in this movie as well. There are a lot of quite creative transitions, and overall, I love how in the beginning of the movie you can see how the main character, the Walter Mitty, is portrayed quite like a little man in the frame, but then as he goes on this journey, he gets more and more significance in the frame. They're showing us that he's now more like a self-realized man. In this movie, there's this tribute to those ordinary men who go to the unknown and make quite amazing things. And overall, I just love the movie. It just flows quite naturally. It has some nice comedy in it. Music is great there, like the soundtrack and the scene with longboard in Iceland. Oh my god, I love that scene. It's just like so liberating. And overall, the movie I think is like about that liberation of all the restraints we put on ourselves or what we are capable of. So I really love this movie for that. And every time I feel quite, I don't know, sad or just not feeling like doing a lot of things, I love to watch this movie. The next one is called Chef. It's basically about a chef who is working in a fancy restaurant. It's like one of the best in his city. But after one of the accidents, he gets fired and he has to start all over. But because of his love for just making food, he goes to continue what he loves to do. And he just purchased a truck and he starts working on a food truck. I love this movie because, you know, it's like one of those movies which is simple and it's good for that reason. Because there is no like cheap drama in it, there's no like fake drama, Hollywood style drama in it. It's quite naturally flowing. The story just goes and goes as like, you know, the food truck, they just go and go. I think that's the power of this movie. Just about the pure love for one thing. And I think one of the absolute goats of this movie is like the grilled cheese scene. It's like so passionate and it's so beautiful. You just wanna eat something similar right away. And just the cubanos, like these sandwiches they make. Oh my god, it's so good. I think food is what drives the story here, what unites the people and resolves whatever the problems the main characters might have. So the next movie is called A Man Called Ove. I hope I pronounced it right, but it's basically a movie after a book written by a Swedish author, Fredrik Backman, and it was nominated for 2 Oscars. And there is also like a remake with the US version with Tom Hanks, but I think the original version is honestly better. But as the plot goes, Ove, the main character, is this kind of angry old man who is now retired and who has lost his wife. He's like in that state state where he's kind of given up on life. And basically, he in the beginning of the movie he tries to attempt a suicide to join his wife, but then there's this new family in his neighborhood that moves in, and then this like little interaction develops the character, and overall how these little interactions, just the ability to give love and contribute to those around you and just accept love, can give our lives more meaning. I think I really love like those little interactions in the movie. They're super kind and wholesome, but also there is this like kind of, I don't know, dark comedy around death, which also gives it like it's quite unique tone to it, I think. And overall, I think the movie is quite emotional. It's gonna provoke quite a lot of different emotions, range of emotions, from like laughing to maybe, I don't know, for some crying. And overall, the acting is great. The main character is great, even though it's not like a huge production movie. The next one is quite famous one, is The Intouchables, which is a French movie, and it's basically a French movie about the kinda old man who's now not really working, but the main thing about him is that he's paralyzed after an accident, and he's basically searching for an kind of daycare guy, basically the guy who's gonna help him go throughout his days and just move around and live his life. And that's when the other character comes, the character of Amar Sy, and his character is this guy called, I think, Idris. He's coming from a kind of poorer district of Paris, from an immigrant family. He kind of accidentally gets this job, and overall it's such a wholesome movie. Like throughout the movie you just get smiles, but also there are a lot of quite emotional moments as well, a lot of cool comedy. I really love how the power of this movie is like in the emotional connection that those two main characters have, how they underline the importance of how we all have something to learn from each other, even though, you know, some people are considered to know more, like, I don't know, in a typical way, more intelligent and know more things. But at the end of the day, we all might learn quite a lot from like people who we typically consider not to know like that much from, I don't know, whatever, like their academic point or whatever it means. Like that simple understanding and that humility that we can all be human to each other and just learn something from each other. I think that's the beauty of how we as humans, we can find a lot of common places that we can connect through, even though we might be quite different at the first sight. And it's all backed up by this beautiful music from Ludovico Einaudi. All in all, great movie. The next movie is called The Terminal, and it's basically a Tom Hanks movie which was made in 2004. It's directed by Steven Spielberg, and as the plot goes, it's about Viktor Novorsky, a man who travels a lot of kilometers to the New York airport, to the US, because of the crisis in his imagined country called Krakozhia. He gets stuck in the airport, and then in this situation he has to figure out what he can do, how he can pass his days, and just figure out the whole situation. It's again another quite wholesome movie about a simple man who wins over like everybody with his kindness and simplicity and sincerity. There are a lot of iconic moments in it. I think you're gonna remember, I don't know, the moment with Burger King with like the quarters. It's about a man who knows how to enjoy like the little moments, who doesn't need that much to kind of feel happy, or just who can give kindness to others just like super genuinely. Maybe it's super reminder for how if we just be nice to others, honestly, a lot of cool moments can happen. I'm like super believer in that, being nice and being cool with others and not expecting a lot of anything in return can make a lot of magic happen, honestly. I mean, it's not always like in movies. At the end of the day, it's a movie, but still a lot of cool things can happen, and I think that's one of the beauties of life as well. Next movie is called The Intern. It's was made in 2015. It's starring Robert De Niro and Anne Hathaway. Overall, it's another super wholesome, quite light movie about an old man who is now retired and who is widowed, but he decides that he wants to do something just for the sake of it, for the sake of trying new things, and he applies to be an intern in this. It was something related with fashion. I really love how in this simple kind of manner it raises the topic of that we can always learn something new. Again, as it's with the previous movies, that no matter what the age is, we should not stop learning, and there are always a lot exciting things to learn. Overall, the connection of Robert De Niro and Anne Hathaway in this movie is like super great. There are a lot of super cute moments, super great comedy, super easy watching, and overall just fills your heart with kindness and wanting to be like this light and super giving man or women. The next movie, yeah, I'm gonna be quite short with it because everybody knows it. If you haven't watched it, you should definitely watch it. It's a legendary movie, as I said. It's Forrest Gump with Tom Hanks, which was made in 1994. It's an iconic movie, and I think one of the highlights of this movie is his ability to connect with quite different types of people. His sincerity again, his love, and he's like this kind of in a way blind to just love and not that much of a questioning of what he does. He just does with his whole heart. Just his ability to take life as it is and not to take himself too seriously and just go throughout his journey like super gracefully, to go over to overcome all of those constraints that his condition and overall his life put him. And it's a great story. It's a great movie. Everyone should check it out. Amazing. Next movie is called Begin Again, and it's another super quite light and wholesome movie with super nice music parts in it, and for everyone who loves music, it's pretty great. The cast is great, and it's reminds me a bit of the movie Chef, where like the simple love for something, what they do just drives the story, and here's the case as well. The simple love for music, whatever the constraints and circumstances are, just drives the characters and unites them and builds this quite beautiful story. I mean, there is some drama in it, I mean, it's okay, but overall I really love this kind of approach and idea to what it means to create, you know, how when they don't really have a lot of resources, like this crappy approach, when you know how oftentimes we tend to put ourselves in restraints of that we need to have quite a lot to create something cool, but at the end of the day we don't need that much. We can start with whatever we have at our hands, and just like this approach of just figuring it out. And I'm really again a firm believer in this idea, and I really love the approach, and I think it's quite beautiful about life as well. Next movie is something like what might seem a bit cringy, or I don't know, in a way. It's called Hector and the Search for Happiness, and it's basically a movie about a psychiatrist who has his life quite well established. He has this girlfriend, which is quite good. He has his job. He has quite enough money and everything, but his life still feels quite gray. So he goes on this journey of trying to figure out what happiness means. And overall, during his journey, it's like he has all of those notes. Like I can read some of them. Like lesson number 1 is that making comparisons can spoil your happiness. Happiness often comes when least expected, and all in all, yeah, it's pretty good. I mean, there are quite a lot of cheesy moments in it, but overall, it has this quite cool adventure kind of spirit in it. It has some comedy in it, and overall, it's a movie not to take too seriously. All in all, it's pretty good. Quite a good movie to lift you up and maybe fill your heart with this passion, or I don't know, this spirit for new adventures and just going out there and exploring the world and doing some cool stuff. And the last movie, I'm not fully sure if this movie can fit in this kind of list, but I watched it quite recently, and I think it's one of my favorite movies in recent times. It's called Yi Yi, I think A1 and 2. It's basically a Taiwanese movie directed by Edward Young. The story goes about this kind of middle class Taiwanese family with their own struggles, and I really love how the story starts like this kind of not so understandable mix of what's going on, but then it's gracefully branching into 3 branches. Like the cinematography, everything is so great about this movie. I think the main theme about this movie is it's about the beginnings and endings, how what something might end can give new beginning for another quite beautiful thing. And overall, this movie has like kind of a bit of melancholy to it. After you watch it, you're like, it's like watching at the sky and just like looking at stars, and when everything like ends, you're just kind of content with it. It's so great at just displaying life as it is, like with all the real struggles that we have, all the doubts and uncertainties, and how we all play these roles that we kind of create in our heads for ourselves. Then we suffer from those roles, but we still keep playing the game of this kind of suffering life. But at the end of the day, it's like the beauty of life and all these complexities, but at the same time, all this simplicity in a way that gives this kind of uniqueness to our lives and this meaning to our lives. It's about how we have all these realizations throughout our lives. They can come from not like the most obvious places, and oftentimes might even come as a movie from a child, from his curiosity just to learn things, just to say things in an honest way, just the way he feels them, the way he sees them. So beautiful that I had so many moments when I was watching it, and I was like literally screaming. I was like, wow, wow. I don't know, just the story goes so beautifully. It's so about life, you know. It's not like some Hollywood kind of style where there is a problem and everything solves like that. It's so real that it's so beautiful. It's so real that it's inspiring. It's so real that it makes you accept life with its all flaws, but at the same time simple beauty in it. And I think it can inspire not in a typical way, but in a way which might be even stronger than a typical inspiring movie way. It's just like a piece of art. I think it's one of the best movies, as I said, I watched. So yeah, I think this was the list of 10 movies, and I have a couple of movies which are bonus movies. The first one is Little Miss Sunshine, and the second one is Into the Wild. Both are great movies. If you have some spare time as well, you can check them out. They're pretty good also. So yeah, this was my list of movies that I like to watch when I feel kind of down, when I want to have some good time, or just to love kind of life again, to be inspired to live and just to take action, I think. Thank you guys for watching. It was quite fun to make this list for me. Stay tuned for future videos. We're gonna create, explore, and have a lot more fun. Peace out.